Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? And it is a fine day. It's gorgeous out there. I've already been out this morning and it is sunny and it's warm and it's pleasant. Very nice. Fred's off to play golf today, so he's in for a treat. Loads to get through today. Something a little bit different today. We don't normally do this, but I thought it was worth doing. I'm going to say good morning to Ken Hatcher, who's just joined us, by the way. There we are. There's Ken's button. Also, good morning to Mark Whiting, to Gary Muirhead as well. Yeah, we're gonna combine my morning monologue and our question of the day. It's just something that occurred to me yesterday when I sat down last night and wrote a thing, and it's my morning monologue. And I'll get to it in just a moment. But how is everyone doing? Jim Turner's just arrived. Hope you're fit and well, Jim. There's your button as well. Very quickly, I don't know if can I reach the word? On my travels across Italy the other day, picked up a few hats. That's the VTN one from my mate Massimo. There's the Camrock one. And I'm particularly taken with this one. I'm even hanging on to this one. That is the Epiroc. Fantastic colour. Yeah. So those are going to be up for grabs at some point in the not too distant future, along with a few other bits and pieces, including this, what is on my desk. That is Camrock as well. It's Camrock keyring. I'll tell you what, I'll do the grand opening. This is what we do on live streams, apparently. There you are. That's what it looks like. That's a Camrock keyring, which is going to be up for grabs in the very near future. Already sent a few bits and pieces off to people, which should be arriving very, very soon. So keep an eye out for those. You're going to find an excuse to give away those other bits and pieces. Look, I'll come up with something. Having said that, I haven't come up with anything to replace the mystery machine, so we'll have to work on that. Dan Cullen is here as well. Morning, Dan. He says, what does he say? Oh, love them. Wow, great caps. Yeah, they are. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Bear with me 1 second. Let me try it again. There we are. There's Dan's button. Yeah. You'll be pleased to know that I've got sound playing again today. I ran a full system check. I've got basically I broadcast from this microphone. Microphone goes into a computer and then it goes into like a mixing desk. So I went through the mixing desk, no problems there. Went through the computer, no problems there. Turns out there's a little lead in the back of the microphone. I'd kicked it out, which is why I couldn't hear myself in my own ears. So there you are. It's time. It is time to get on with the show, shall we? I think we should. Without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, which, as I say, relates very much to our morning monologue today. And I'm going to get the show on the road immediately after this. Now, the eagle-eyed among you would have spotted the fact that that's how we end the show, not how we begin it. So let me try that again. It is Tuesday, the 17th of June. Know how I know? Because my other half gets back from her hollybobs today. So yes, that's what's going to be happening. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, Komatsu unveils its next generation wheel loaders. Deere dozers drive performance. Bobcat goes large on its excavators. And why Pat is not just a postman. Plus, in my morning monologue today, what would make you stop work? Now, there is no mystery machine today. You know the score on that. And I'm not going to remind you of the details of our mystery of our question of the day today. It's in the chat. You can see it there. And we're going to come back to it at the end because it's part of the morning monologue. So without all of that out of the way, let's get on with a bit of this. And our friend Mick is back. Mick, how are you doing, my friend? Hope you're fitting well. Have you been in Italy? Have you been in Italy? I'm fresh back. I don't know if you know that, but I was in Italy all last week. Jim Turner says, don't know if it's your end or mine, but the sound when you're talking isn't very good, but the clips aren't affected. So maybe your mic. Mike is, let me just check. I'll run a very quick check. Let's have a look. No, I am broadcasting like a good one here. Let me see if I can switch that. Does that make any difference to you, Jim? Let me know. Do what I can do. We'll come back to all of that in just a moment. So yes, Komatsu. You know Komatsu. You certainly should. They're the second biggest manufacturer in the world. They have some exciting new wheel loaders, and we've got some exclusive footage of them that looks just like this. Yeah, I'm with Dan on that. He says, what does he say? I don't know what it is, but Komatsu sure do make some eye-catching products. They really do. Very, very quickly, I'm going to go back on Mick, as regulars will know. Mick is trying to buy a property over in Italia. Don't blame him for that one bit, but he's been putting through the ringer a bit by the sound of it. Been back and forth, mate. Bloody paperwork, worse than the HSE. Jonathan Duras is here as well. Jim Turner reckons that bear with me, the sound is still muffled. I've got a horrible feeling that this might be a Facebook thing. I'm listening to what I'm broadcasting. That's fine. Dan Cullen has very kindly said. Find it. Sound is perfect coming out of YouTube. I've listened to LinkedIn. I can get that one through my ears. That seems to be okay. So it may be a Facebook thing. So if you're really struggling with it, swap channels. Go and have a look at YouTube or something like that. Mr. Clips of Beasts over on Instagram says, "Hey, good morning to you as well." And I know you think you're the only one watching. because you're on Instagram. There's people watching on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, 2 different Facebook pages. We're everywhere. And on Twitch as well, if you're interested in that kind of thing. Let's have a look. What do we got here? Dan Carr saying, I've seen Howard Stott's demolition new cat-stroke boom in Doncaster. Looks a fine machine. Which one have they got? They've gone 340 or 352. Love to hear from you. Ryan Noon, if you're watching up at Howard Stottland, let me know what you've got. Be interested to hear all about it. Yeah, that's done that. Don't forget, our question of the day today is, what would be enough to make you stop work? We'll come back to it after, well, a bit later on. First,
if you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
John Deere dozers. Don't really need much introduction, do they? So, here they are.
Building on over 3 million field hours of eDrive solutions, the new John Deere 850 X-Tier is here. In a recent Deere study comparing the 850 X-Tier and the Cat D6 XE, John Deere brings a game-changing solution that competes with the Cat D6 XE in all operations. The 850 X-Tier is ready to excel in the dirt through performance, uptime, innovation, and efficiency. With updates in the engine compartment, the John Deere 850 X-Tier has a lower hood profile for improved visibility out the front and to blade corners over the Cat D6 XE. In the recent Deere study, these machines were put through slot trenching, backfilling, and pad grading applications, depicting high-demand operations all the way to light material movement. In all 3 of these applications, the John Deere 850 X-Tier was able to match or perform with the Cat D6 XE. For example, in slot trenching applications, the John Deere 850 X-Tier matched the Cat D6 XE in cycles per hour, but had a 7% advantage on blade fill. This equates to 136 more cubic yards of material moved in an 8-hour shift. The 850 X-Tier power and engine response was better than the Cat D6 XE in high-demand operations when encountering a load. The eDrive technology provided no lag in response. In backfilling applications, John Deere 850 X-Tier met the challenge and matched the productivity and fuel usage of the Cat D6 XE, demonstrating efficiency and speed. In grading applications, the John Deere 850 X-Tier was 13% more fuel efficient than the D6 XE, meaning the John Deere moved more cubic yards of material per gallon of fuel. The John Deere 850 X-Tier electric drive technology utilizes John Deere's years of expertise with dual-path hydrostatics to forge a new dual-path electric drive solution focusing on efficiency and operational uptime. The all-new 850 X-Tier has demonstrated advantages over the Cat D6 XE and is ready to demonstrate its eDrive capabilities in the dirt.
Yeah, still getting some issues with the sound, but bizarrely both on Facebook. Video is fine, but it's your voice that's just a bit manky. I don't know. As I say, I can monitor the sound, and I'm firing on all cylinders here. It's weird that it's both the Facebook view or the Facebook viewers that are struggling the most. Chris Ford has arrived. Says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm tough at the top, but harder at the bottom. Damn right it is. Did you get your goodie box, by the way, Chris? Just want to make sure that arrived soundly. And it's Jim Turner, and the sound of the clips is perfect. It's just me that's weird. Dan said I missed his earlier comments, but then he has reiterated his earlier comments, which is this. I'm on the verge, to be honest, of pulling out of construction as it's become a total mess since self-employed came in. There's no 2 Fs given to plant and equipment by some operators, and yesterday I've seen that. But the question of the day, just to very quickly remind you, is what would be enough to make you stop work? And I know he's doing this for shits and giggles and, for amusement's sake. Chris Ford says death. And that is kind of the point of today's morning monologue, which I will get to in the not too distant future. Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher says, you've got a job to beat a cat dozer. Yeah, absolutely right. You have. Mick says, hardest thing is trying to sort out a bank account. F me, you would think I was a bank robber at the amount of questions proving. Now trying to get a resident visitor resident status. Bloody EU rules. See, all those folks that voted for Brexit, have they brought that upon themselves? I wonder if they have. Just on that, though, I mean, the hoops you have to jump through to move money about these days. We've got our eye on a flat that we're trying to buy. And even before you can actually put in an offer, you've got to prove that you've got the money, you've got to prove where the money's come from, so you're not money laundering. Absolute bloody nightmare, really is. Going back to Dan, he says, brand new cat was like 10-year-old machine, not greased, not cleaned. If I got a reasonable offer to drive a forklift in a warehouse, I'd go for it. You'd be a loss to the industry, sir. Are John Deere dozers still manufactured by Liebherr, or has that arrangement stopped? I'm not sure, Jonathan. Not sure at all. Question of day, to pack in working for other people, I'd stop now if I could afford it. If you mean stopping work altogether, I have no intention of ever not working. The richer I got, the bigger the projects I would get. No, what I'm talking about is if you wake up in the morning, is there anything lying ahead of you in your day of work that you just makes you go, do you know what? No, that's a step too far. Step too far. So that's what I'm after. Dan says, don't know, Komatsu dozers just as hard to beat. Yeah, Komatsu do make a fine dozer, as does Liebherr, of course. Chris says, yes, it arrived. Thank you. I was going to let you know, but you were too busy enjoying the Italians' hospitality. You're right, I was. Then I forgot. Did think about it about 6 this morning. There you are. Just glad it arrived. Hope it all suits, fits. I can't even remember what I said. You get the idea. Mick says, I think you know why I turned it all up, but I'll say again, this demo game was getting out of hand, not to mention the ancient health and safety rules. Yeah. It's things like that we're looking for. Oh, excuse me. Right, what have we got next? What have we got next? Seem to have a bit of a slot there. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do things out of order. What's happened there? Yes, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, let me do this one first. You see, you go away for a week and you forget how everything works. Yes, we've already seen dozers, and now I have a video that proves that Pat, more than just a postman.
Unveiling the new precedent in bulldozer efficiency and performance, the PowerPlus D65EX15, equipped with the power angle tilt blade. Mounted on our time-tested bulldozer chassis, the PAT blade maximizes your versatility and maneuverability. With the ability to adjust in 6 directions along 3 axes, the PAT blade revolutionizes your jobs with exceptional performance and adaptability.
That's Pat. I have got my details back in order now. Jim Turner says, I'm only here on other people's machines because they pay me. I wouldn't do it if I didn't need to. The site life isn't anywhere near as good as it was 20 to 30 years ago. Hold that thought. Dan says, if I could, I'd start my own machine hire and work for myself. Finance is available, sir. I've never seen so many people waiting outside a bank on a Tuesday morning. Not just one, but 4. Yeah, well, we all need our money, I guess. Yes, I've got the show back in order now. I don't know quite what went wrong there. Sorry, I'm not fiddling with myself. I'm just trying to get my mouse to pay attention. Here we
Since
go.
the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, a very quick heads up. Starting tomorrow, I will be bringing you I'll be bringing you a series of films from my trip across Italy. The first one tomorrow. We went to a company, very first visit that we made. I'm going to try and do them in chronological order because that seems only fair. I went to a company called LCD Group, who are basically a scrap metal company. But where they differ from most scrap metal companies chop up bits of steel, bits of metal, bits of ferrous, whatever it might be, send it off to various locations to be smelted, remanufactured. LCD do exactly the same, but they divert some of their stuff to art and furniture and furnishings. We visited them in Milan. Obviously, it's Milan, extremely stylish. I'll be showing you that tomorrow, around about this time, actually. What do we got here in the chat? Mick says, we'll email you the address, so if you're ever out there again, you and yours will be welcome for a stopover. Mick, any excuse to get out there, any excuse. Chris Ford says, question of the day, my problem is that I enjoy what I do. Sometimes you think, screw it, but I've sold up twice, and within 6 months, I'm back in. That is very much the tone that I am thinking. The morning monologue is now about 3 minutes away. You'll see exactly what I'm getting at in just a moment. So hold that thought, Chris, because you're right on the money of where I want you to be. Yes, one final film, and it's from Bobcat, and they're going large. There you are. It's Bobcat. I was just saying, I was typing a message to Alessandro over at Oil Quick Italy, who's back with us. Really nice guy. Really nice guy. Good to meet up with him over in Venice. What have we got? Well, now that'd be interesting. Bobcat large excavators, any in the UK yet? Don't know. If anyone from Versatile Equipment is watching, have you sold any of the bigger ones? Be interested to know. They do resemble Doosan Devellon. Well, they're all part of the same company. So I would imagine if you scratch the paint off of a Bobcat, you may well find a bit of Devellon underneath. And Alessandro has just said, ciao, as he would. I'm just trying to think of how I'm supposed to respond to that, but I can't actually remember. Ciao. Let's have a look. What do we got? Yeah, we're going over into the morning monologue in just a moment. So that's about it for the main part of today's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then please do stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. Tomorrow would be ideal. Now, but if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back immediately after this, where I'll be questioning what would make you stop going to work. Yeah, back after this. If someone asked you to step into a cage with a Bengal tiger, you'd say no. No hesitation, no debate, just a flat-out refusal. If someone told you to square up to a grizzly bear, you'd be gone. And there'd be no shame in that, no second thoughts. If someone suggested you lower yourself into a plague pit, ankle deep in the bones and bile of past pandemics, you'd probably tell them to piss off. And yet, every morning you lace up your boots, you put on your high-vis, and you walk headfirst into dangers most people couldn't even name, let alone face. You climb scaffolds where one wrong step comes with no second chance. You work near kit that could crush a man flat without even slowing down. You strip asbestos that can lodge in your lungs and shorten your life. You breathe in dust, diesel and fumes, not because you want to, but because the job needs doing, and someone's got to do it. And still, you show up. Even when the world shut down during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the streets were silent and the shops were dark, you kept turning up. You were labelled essential, a key worker. While everyone else stayed home, fearful, you carried on. Not for applause, just because it was expected, and because you always have. But here's the question no one really asks. What would actually stop you going to work? Because it wasn't COVID. It's not asbestos. It's not the risk of falling from height, and it's not the excuse me a second. And it's not working beside machines that could tear a man in two. It's not the funerals, not the near misses, and it's not the long-term injuries you've just learned to live with. And it's not the suicides that are racking up across the sector. So where do you draw the line? Would it be a mate in a body bag? Would it be a lump in a lung scan? Would it be a child asking why you're never home, or why you always come home tired, coughing and angry? Would it be the morning you woke up and just couldn't move the way you used to? Or would you still go in? That's the question. And it's not rhetorical. It's not soft. It's not sentimental. It's real. Because danger in this industry isn't rare. It's routine. It's normal. And the scariest part, you've made peace with that. The fear that would stop most people in their tracks has become background noise to you. You walk under suspended loads without a second thought. You work in contaminated ground like it's just another day. You breathe dust because the mask slows you down and the deadline doesn't wait. And that's not on you. That's the industry. That's the culture. That's the way it's always been. It shouldn't be. So here's another question, one that never seems to get asked loudly enough. Is the reward worth the risk? Because for all the dangers you face, the pay often doesn't match the price of the sacrifice. Not when you compare it to office jobs, cushioned in air conditioning and ergonomic chairs. Not when a missed hazard could mean a lifetime of pain, or, worse still, no lifetime at all. They call it danger money, but is the money enough to offset the clear and present danger? You carry the physical toll, the mental weight, the unpredictability. You take the hits so others can live and work in comfort, drive on smooth roads, sit in shining offices. Yet too often, your value is measured in productivity, not protection. Your wage reflects the hours, not the hazards. And when things go wrong, the reward never feels quite enough. Maybe turning up every day, no matter the risk, shouldn't be the only way to prove your worth. Maybe saying not today doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've finally drawn a line, because you've already proved yourself. You proved it when you went to work during the lockdown. You proved it when you patched up your own wounds just to finish the shift. You proved it when you swallowed your pride, your fear, your anger, and just got on with the job. No one can question your courage, no one. But there's another kind of strength too, the kind that knows when to stop, knows when enough is enough, knows that showing up shouldn't mean putting your health, your safety, or your future on the line, knows that you deserve more than just a pat on the back and a payslip that barely covers the bills. So again, ask yourself honestly, what would stop you going to work? And if the answer is nothing, maybe it's time to think about why. That's what I was getting at. Hope that all made sense. In my experience, the answer to that question, what would stop you going to work, is pretty much as Chris said, death. And I realise, I mean, some of this will be down to age. I think, my father had a very specific work ethic, which he passed on to me, and which I passed on to at least one of my offspring. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm after. Let's have a look. What have we got? Jonathan Dures, going back to the Bobcats. I know they're rebadged to Velons, but they do look impressive. It's the colour, isn't it? It is the colour. Chris says there might be a possibility next week. So there you are. And Chris, Dan says, Chris, give me a shout. Gary says, if I lost interest in it and didn't have a love for the work I do, I would just jack it all in, or winning the Euro Millions tonight. Well, Gary, my fingers are crossed for you, my friend. What have we got here? You mentioned the danger thing a lot. I don't see it that much of a problem. I say driving to and from work is much more dangerous, and nearly everyone does that. It's a fair comment. The issue, I guess, is within demolition and construction, you are in a controlled environment, and I realise that's probably not entirely true. But once you're in a construction site, you are basically in a controlled environment where there should be safety. There should be safety, and I always go back to this. If you crash your car, you might hurt yourself, you might hurt somebody else. If you drive off the road, you might hurt or kill a couple of people. You lose control of an excavator, you could take out dozens of people. You could drop a building on an entire demolition site. You could send a demolition, a building out into the road and kill multiple people. That's the bit I'm talking about. But you're right. You are right. Maybe I do play up the health and safety bit a bit too much, but I do think it's worth discussing. I see they're now screaming out for trades in the construction demolition industry. I was also sent a video of someone on one of the morning programs regarding mental health problems in the game. Strange, we've been banging on about this for a few years. Finally got a 5-minute interview on the TV. Yeah, I mean, I know Andy Stevens is doing some pretty good work over on his channel with that. But the problem is, I don't actually think the public give the actual construction industry a second thought. I think the only time that the general public ever, Joe Public ever thinks about construction or demolition is when they walk past a site and it's a bit dusty or it's a bit noisy, when roadworks are stopping them getting to work on time and that sort of thing. And then maybe they might think about it when they go and buy themselves a nice shiny new house, but they won't give any thought to who put it together, who built it, who cut their hands and their knees and, drop things on their toes putting their house together. It would just be, I've got a shiny new house. That's as far as the consideration goes. And I think with the mental health thing, that's exactly the same. I don't think they understand that at all. I really don't. The thing that stopped me from work is, if God forbid, health complications. And if I lost interest in it, it's gone downhill the last number of years. Too much health and safety. Can you have too much health and safety? I realise health and safety administration is a pain in the ball bag, but can you have too much health and safety? Do we have enough? I would question. If 50 people or thereabouts are dying on UK demolition and construction sites each year, do we have enough? Should we have a different type? Should we have a different type? Got a question for you. I know we've spoken over the 5+ years that we've been doing this show. By the way, show today is number 950. Another 50 shows and we'll be on the magic 1,000. Yeah, we've talked a lot on this show. Mr. Clips of Beast, bro, is this live or pre-recorded? It's live. It's live. We're speaking to you live. I think a lot of you guys have picked up injuries, from cuts and grazes, twisted ankles, damaged knees, damaged hips, getting in and out of the machines. When that happens, if you do miss a step on miss the last rung of the ladder on your excavator, and you jar your knee or you jar your hip or you jar your back and you're in absolute agony, what do you do? Do you go home? Or do you crack on? This Mr. Clips of Beast is being a pain in the arse. I've replied in speech. I'm not typing things. Dan says, I have a work ethic, and even if I won the lotto, I'd start out on my own and build a completely different etiquette on sites. Treat the men with respect, and companies nowadays don't do this, which is a disgrace. I agree, it is a disgrace. Chris Ford going on with the same subject. If I won the Euro Millions, there'd be a few bits of shiny metal in the if this job fucks with your mental health, you're in the wrong job. At what point does that become valid? Take your point, Jim, and I know this is something we've touched on together before. If you let's say you're mid-20s, okay, and I'm sure back in the day this would have applied to many of those people that are watching this. You went through school. Maybe you were academic, maybe you weren't, but you've always had your eye on. I'd love to go and work in construction or demolition. Love to drive an excavator or a wheel loader or a dozer. And you get to your early 20s and you've got your opportunity. Maybe you've now got yourself a girlfriend. Maybe you've now got yourself a fiance. Maybe you're married. Maybe you've got a young child. And a few years in, you start to realize that this job is fucking hard. Really seriously fucking hard. It takes a mental toll. It takes a physical toll. The rewards are possibly not quite what you imagined. You're working away from home, which you never really allowed for, and so on down the line. If you are now mid-20s, maybe early 30s, are you necessarily in a position to just say, no, I've taken a wrong turn here, this life is not for me, and go and do something else? Or are you committed to paying the rent, paying the mortgage, paying the food bills, paying the council tax, or whatever it might be? Not quite as easy as just saying, I'm in the wrong job, I'll do something else. Really isn't. Gary says, too many forget that you're responsible for your own safety and the safety of others around you these days on site. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I do think one of the issues that we've got in this industry is that we've now, I wouldn't say we've become numb to health and safety, but I think we've kind of offloaded responsibility. Because of the duty of care that employers have, I do think that a lot of people working in this industry just believe that they're now invincible. I can walk on site and the people that are employing me will have taken care of all the risks. I'm not at risk at all because the hazards have been sorted out. They've done the toolbox talks, they've done this, they've done that. We've got fresh new PPE. I will be absolutely fine, and that's not the case at all. And I don't think this is necessarily just a construction thing. I think the notion of personal responsibility is something that's kind of slipped out of society. Where I live, I've got a line of trees outside my house. I can't show you, but you'll take my word for it. And they're quite old trees, so as a result, they've grown up through the pavement. So a bit of the pavement, a little bit outside my house, down to the left here, is a bit uneven. It's a bit lumpy and bumpy. If you weren't paying attention, you could quite easily fall over and graze your knees or cut your hand or whatever it might be. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's my problem. I don't want anyone to come and cut the trees down because they're quite nice. The problem is that if I did go out there, if somebody went out there and had a fall, it will be somebody else's fault. Oh, the council didn't do this and the council didn't do that. How about you look where you're fucking going, mate? Would that not be a better idea? Dan says, problem I see nowadays is some of these people don't have an interest in the job. They're more interested in the industry. It's a hard one. The people that watch this show, I think, are a slightly different breed. I think if you're going to sit here for an hour or more each morning and listen to me babble on, the chances are you are not just doing a job. You are in a vocation. This is, it's a key and integral part of your life. Ultimately, though, most people go to work purely to put food on the table. They're nothing more than that, And listen, if this all went south tomorrow, I would go out to work and I'd drive a taxi, stack shelves at Sainsbury's, whatever it might be. I'd do whatever it needed to keep my wife and my children safe and comfortable. And I would get over the fact that I didn't like the job because that's just the way it is. So I do think there is a divide. I think there are some people that are completely passionate about it. And bearing in mind, I mean, there's a further proof of this. Jim and Chris and Gary and Dan and Ken will give up part of their own personal time to attend Scott Plant or Hillhead or Plant Works. It's their own time. They're surrounded by machines all day, every day. They've got a day off, and what do? They go and look at some more machines. I think that's where you guys are possibly different to your run-of-the-mill construction worker. Jim Turner says, stay at work and get paid to be in pain. No point in being in pain at home for free. Should you be in pain, though? Should you be in pain? I can think of very few other industries where that would be the answer. And I realise this is an extreme one, but you see a footballer breaks a fingernail, is rushed to hospital, and he's out for 6 weeks. Okay, that's a slightly extreme. But when you think about your average person, they hurt their back or they twist their knee or something. It's a couple of days off while they rest and recuperate. In this industry, it's just like, no, sod it, crack on. I can't actually get in and out of the machine particularly easily, but there's a job to do. And I do think that's admirable. I do think there is a nobility in that commitment to the job. I'm not decrying that in any way, shape, or form. But it has now become an expectation. I was talking to my son a little while ago, who works for a leisure club, and he's been through the ringer a bit this year. And in an ideal world, he probably would have taken a week off, him and his girlfriend, buggered off somewhere nice and sunny, and just get his mind straight again, and then come back and crack on. And when I said that to him, he said, "Love to, but that would be seen as weak. I want to be a manager at some point. That's not management material." And the weird thing about that is that, I would imagine that's not in writing anywhere. That's just implied. If you're not here all day, every day, working all the hours that God sends, come rain or shine, whether you're in sickness or in health, if you're not here, you're weak, and your promotion possibilities have just been curtailed. It's not great. Dan says they're more interested in the rates per hour. Yes, to a point, it's good, but then companies realise you jump for the next 50p an hour. Yeah, absolutely. Chris, have you got his number? Chris, have you got his number? I always do a mental risk assessment before I do anything. Is it going to hurt if I get it wrong? If it's yes, I don't do it. I wonder how many people do that. I mean, I think, thinking about demolition, I think, a decent operator will have a bit of a stroll around a site, make sure there's no hidden voids that they're not aware of that could swallow up their machine. I think they do a bit of that. They have a good look around, make sure there's nobody working too close by that they might strike, or something might strike them. They're checking for overhead power cables and that kind of thing. How many people are doing that? Are you safe in the knowledge that the guy driving the dozer or the excavator or the wheel loader right beside you has done that? Excuse me. Or are people just turning up, firing up the machine and cracking on? Are they taking, we talk about pre-start checks. Pre-start checks, we always relate to machines. Has it got enough oil in it? Has it got enough water in it? And so on down the line. Is it safe to operate? Are the surroundings safe? Has something happened while you've been away overnight that might make you pause for thought? Are people checking that? It's a big issue, Gary. Too many operators don't check their surroundings when slewing or reversing machines. You're right. You're right. And again, going back to that personal responsibility thing, I mean, Gary, or rather Dan, has just mentioned there telehandlers. Now, a lot of telehandlers these days have got reversing cameras and, maybe reversing sensors or whatever it might be, object avoidance. Is that a good thing? I mean, for starters, if you organise your site properly, you wouldn't need that in the first place. But the moment you put those driver aids in place, you remove the need for the operator to be as alert as perhaps they would be. Are they checking behind them before they reverse? Or are they putting their entire faith into cameras? And what if they do that for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, and then they go to a site where the telehandler doesn't have a reversing camera? Are they as alert as they should be? Mick says, even Marcus Aurelius, a good friend of mine, realised and said, there comes a time when too many battles have been fought. You then question, why do we carry on? Sorry, a bit heavy for this time of the morning. No, heavy is good. Heavy is good. Nothing wrong with a bit of Marcus Aurelius stoicism. But you're absolutely right. You know, I do wonder, using that analogy there, how many battles is too many? That was more or less the whole premise of my morning monologue today. You know, you've been through COVID. You work alongside asbestos. You work alongside machines that are being operated by people that are sometimes competent, sometimes not, sometimes grossly incompetent. You're working against the clock. How many, using the Marcus Aurelius analogy there, how many battles before you say, hang on, let's all take a bit of a step back here, or better still, I'm taking a step back here. I'm not comfortable with that. And what would be the feedback on that? What would be the feedback? You know, if you went to your boss, your employer, the site manager, and said, enough, what's the point? What happens then? Would you be ejected from the site? Possibly. If you were ejected from the site, would your perceived weakness follow you onto the next job? If somebody phoned up and said, I've got this Dan Cohen bloke here, he's applied for a job, what do you reckon? Nah, he's a fucking coward, that bloke. Don't have anything to do with him. He stopped work because he thought it was a bit unsafe. Who would blame him? Dan says, I've seen too many near misses, but no one bothers until there's an accident. You're absolutely right. That's what I'm doing today. Looking in checkout sites where I'm now stuck because of management screw-ups. I'm out of pocket. Out of pocket again. It's becoming quite the thing, isn't it? Gary says, I've also told people on site, if you're not happy and hate what you're doing, leave. There's no padlock on the gate. You can leave anytime you like. You can. Let me put it like this. We all know the bills we have to pay. Listen, I'm a little bit up. Well, I'm quite a lot older. And, you know, all of you guys, by and large, are a bit older as well. But you imagine going home to your fiancée, clutching a new baby, and you say to her, I've jacked. And she says, have you got another job? No, but I've had enough of that. How does that sit? Is that not putting your family at risk? And I always say this before I then venture into conspiracy theory land. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But do employers know that? Have they got you by the short and curlies like that, by the balls? We don't have to worry too much about their mental and physical well-being because, frankly, where else are they going to go? Is that what's happening? The thing is, as you said, if this is an issue too, as people keep asking me to get manager's card, but I often wonder what I'd be like as I'd be more robust. I tell you what, one of the hardest things I've ever done, and obviously I work in a markedly different industry, but one of the hardest things I've ever done was making the switch from, minion to manager. I was at my employment happiest when I was one of the plebs, one of the Indians, not one of the chiefs. Chiefs. One of those. It's hard. It is hard because you're great mates and you're all pals and you're down the pub at lunchtime and you're having a bit of a giggle. You're doing your work, but you're having a bit of a laugh. And then somebody says, Mark, we love the cut of your jib. You're now a manager. You've now got to take a step back from all of your pals and tell them what to do. It's tough. It is tough. And I have to admit, I wouldn't say it was one of the reasons I quit my publishing job. There were many reasons, but that was certainly among the many. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that one bit. Mick says, saying all this, Mark, I've been in and out of the little machine I got for the farm, sitting in it, just pottling about. I was thinking of the days when I worked doing it for a living. Did I do the right thing? Too bloody right I did. And a few bottles of the white helps for lunch in the sun. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's coming out here, a number of people talking about lottery wins and that kind of thing. I think because you do have this in your blood, because it is a passion, I do think, even if Chris or Gary or Dan or whatever won the lottery today, chances are, yes, they would still go and play on machines. But playing on machines is not the same as being required to do things that may be safe or may be not, if you see what I mean. Gary says, too many people these days just waiting for someone to fuck up so they can stand and laugh and get their cameras out, then trying to help. Yeah. And again, I would say that that's not necessarily an industry thing. That's a societal thing. Go back a few years, there was a series of videos of people fighting with and attacking police officers, including female police officers. And rather than leaping to their aid, people have got their phones out. Oh, better film this. This will go a storm on TikTok. When did that become a thing? Dan says, great show, Mark. Very well improvised. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. There is a lot of improvisation goes on here, as you can probably imagine. If you think someone has you by the bollocks, you're already beat. You just haven't realised it yet. Are we not? Are we all not held by the bollocks to a degree? And I realise those degrees will vary. But the very fact that we are all expected to go out and earn a crust to keep a roof over our heads and so on down the line. There is a degree of testicular grasping, isn't there? I think if you work for a good employer, maybe that grasp is a little looser. Maybe it's a gentle cupping. But if you are working for, on a major project, or you've got a particularly unpleasant boss, or you're up against it, I think that grip will tighten. I don't know how we got talking about testicles, but that's where we are. Dan Khan says, hope you have fantastic, guys. Stay safe. Look after your colleagues and your family and your friends. Enjoy. I'm on the hunt. And Chris, give us a shout. Chris, give him a shout. Give him a job. Give him a shout. Dan says that's a society thing. Everything is on camera. Everyone videos everything, no matter how minor. Just to put it on TikTok. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Nick says, stay safe, gents. Catch you later. And don't let the bastards grind you down. No, don't let the bastards grind you down. If you sense that the bastards are grinding you down, tell me about it and I'll turn it into a show, because that's what I do. Anyway, people, that's nearly an hour. I'm going to go away and have a look at the sound for Jim, because I don't want Jim to be disappointed by the sound quality over here. I'll have a play with that this afternoon. Let's see what we can do. But I'll be back tomorrow for yet more of the same. No idea what the discussion point will be tomorrow. It doesn't actually matter, because you guys have always got something to say about whatever it is I come up with. So please be here tomorrow for more of the same. Until then, everybody have a fine and splendid day, and I'll see you on the morrow. Oh, hang on a minute. Jonathan Duras just said, I think it's disgusting. If someone made a mistake, most would try and help. Nowadays, it's get the camera phone out and film it so we can humiliate them for the world to see. It's disgusting. Jonathan Duras, I 100% agree. It is absolutely disgusting. I spent a whole week wandering around with that in my hand, filming food and Italian architecture. But I'd like to think that if I saw somebody in trouble, that wouldn't be my first thought. My first thought would be to help them and worry about the TikTok fame and notoriety afterwards. I don't understand it. Anyway, people, thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you for that one, Jonathan. Back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. for more of the same. Till then, have a good one, people.